Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this video. I am Infinity43. This is episode 10 of 143 Collector's Corner. We are in Lamar territory today. We're looking at one of my favorite Lamar vehicles, a bit of a black sheep really, the Nissan Gtr-Lm that we all wished would have so much success in LMP1. Let's get into it. Ask any Lamar fan and the chances are they know about and quite possibly admire the Gtr-Lm. Designed to compete in the LMP1 category, it was visually striking, uniquely engineered, and it had an interesting collection of drivers. I think many people really wanted this car to succeed, and if Nissan had been a little bit patient, I truly believe it would have. So let's talk design first, and this is where the GTR was most notably different from its competitors. Chief designer Ben Bowlby was tasked with creating a race car that wasn't simply a copy of Audi's highly successful R18. Now that alone is a tall order when you know there is a design out there that works. It was the same general design that Porsche followed and carried to victory in their 2015 Le Mans return. But Bowlby didn't shy away from the challenge. He came up with a few ideas he believed could, at the very least, make them competitive, and perhaps even faster than the dominating Audi. Now to go over all those mechanical details may be a little bit tedious, but it is worth mentioning some areas where Nissan's engineers decided to try a different approach. The engine was mounted in the front rather than in the back, and was also front-wheel drive. Nissan believed they could improve stability and speed with this setup. This would in theory also allow them to create most of the downforce at the heavier front of the car, thus creating more freedom with the build of the rear end. The body was constructed of carbon fiber, which allowed Nissan to reach the minimum weight of 870 kilograms. The GTR had a dual flywheel kinetic energy recovery system, which could add 750 horsepower to the total output. Insane! And I remember reading somewhere that the revolutions of those flywheels was something like 60,000 per minute. Mind-boggling numbers. Because the turbochargers were mounted on top of the engine, the exhaust exited from the back of the bonnet, right by the windshield. Apparently this made the car pretty loud for the drivers, and it must have been a bit of a shock when flames shot out right in front of your face. Once again, if you are interested in the design of this car, I would highly recommend you do some internet searches for the Gtr-Lm. There are articles and videos that cover the engineering in far better detail than I ever could or should for this type of video. Nissan spent a considerable amount of time testing the Gtr-Lm in America as the project went public, starting at the Technology Center in Arizona before moving to various tracks such as the Circuit of the Americas, Palm Springs International Raceway, and Sebring. The model that we are reviewing today actually is based on that Sebring test car rather than a particular race. And that's because the Gtr-Lm didn't really compete in a lot of races. At all. Testing had not gone as hoped. The car failed numerous crash tests, which meant it would miss the start of the WE season in 2015. Nissan were now forced to wait for the 24 hours of Le Mans in that year to finally debut the car. And they probably wish they hadn't. Entering into the LMP1 category, the Gtr-Lm was thoroughly outclassed by everything else in the category. Even the LMP2 pole sitter was faster than one of the Gtr-Lms. The Nissan was 20 seconds slower than the pole position Porsche 919. Absolutely dismal speed. And that wasn't even the worst of it. Of the three cars that entered, one retired after 115 laps with suspension failure, and another was lost after 234 laps with a faulty gearbox. The third and final GTR managed to finish, but it was so far behind it wasn't even classified. And with that dismal performance, Nissan quickly shelved the project, and it was never seen again. And yet, the Gtr-Lm continues to capture the imagination of so many. I think the majority of race fans were genuinely excited for this car. It was a unique design, an underdog to the titans Audi and Porsche and Toyota, who could perhaps outfox them with clever engineering. And you know what? Had Nissan been willing to stick with it for even just a little longer, that dream may have been realized. Their testing had been plagued with difficulties, but progress was being made, albeit slowly. Sadly, we will never know what might have been, and this is a loss for all of motorsport. This model is an IXO premium creation. It has a larger base and lid, with the car details etched into a small plaque on the nose end of the base rather than on the left of the car. It looks neat and well made, although most people who own models like this tend to display them sideways, so the details on the plaque are a little lost. Quality wise, it's what you would expect from IXO. I cannot really see a difference here between the premium model and my regular IXO creations. Other than the display box, it seems pretty much like any other IXO model. The thing that I've always admired about this particular car though is the design. I love the lights at the front and the Nissan badge peeking out from under the bonnet. The long front end of the car surprisingly works and makes for an attractive and unique race car. Nissan never covered the entire body with decals and sponsorships, so even with the brands and racing series logos that are in place, the GTR was predominantly a solid red. IVO have recreated this accurately, even down to the tone of the red. It almost looks a little bit bland to be honest, but it is accurate to the real number 23. The decals that are present are all neat and tidy, including the fantastic little Michelin man below the back wing. I bought this model sealed and securely mounted to its base. So it's a bit sad then that the model isn't without blemish. The front right headlight seems a little poorly mounted, as if it's too large for the hole that it's intended to fill. Also, there is a tiny paint chip on the front right wheel arch next to the tire hole. These are tiny things that many people won't pick up at a distance, but it seems a bit out of place on a premium model. I purchase models for different reasons. Some are lucky finds at a store or at a market sale, something that catches my eye and I like the look of. Other times I will specifically seek out a particular model for a vehicle that I admire. This falls into that latter category. IXO's model of the Gtr-Lm is good. Almost great, but it is not excellent. And while I appreciate the one that I have, I would be tempted to replace it with one finished off with greater care, should that option ever become available to me.